Welcome to B Plus Overland, where we share with you all of the upgrades and changes we've made to our B Plus RV for full-time off-grid living and a trip down the Pan American Highway from Alaska to Argentina. Ours is a 2021 LTV Wonder rear twin bed. That's the B Plus in the back, and it's built upon a 2020 Ford Transit 350 HD cutaway van with rear dually wheels. Come check it out. I'm going to share with you our solution for toilets when overlanding in a B+. So what's typical in a stock B+ in North America? In most cases, it's going to be a hard plumb toilet. One that when you use it, it uses some of your onboard fresh water to flush the contents out of the bowl and into your black tank. So that's going to be your waste liquids and your waste solids. And now you've got basically sewage that you're hauling around with you. And when that tank starts to get full, if you're at a campground, you use their dump facilities. If you're driving through a town that has a paid service, you can pull in there and pay a small fee and hook up and dump that tank, empty it out, and keep on going down the road. In some cases, a B+ uses a more economical toilet. It's called a cassette, and basically that's a small black tank that slides in and out and sits below the toilet. And same thing, when it starts to get full, which will usually happen a little quicker because they're smaller, you're going to use a campsite or a dump site and empty it out. So what are the challenges to having these types of systems when you're going to head south of the border? Well, when you get into Mexico, the amount of places that you can dump a black tank really start to dry up. They're few and far between. Not that they can't be found. Once you get below Mexico, they don't exist. So you're driving around, your tank starts to fill up, there's no place to dump. What are you going to do? Your only option is to pull over on the side of the road or find a field and be that guy who's dumping raw sewage. You don't want to do that. Now, cassette toilets, you hear people maybe on the forums talking about, oh, you know, I'll take my cassette out and we dump it in the toilet at the gas station. That works. It's not great. Septic systems in Latin America are very simple. They're not like in the US. You can't put toilet paper down these things. So in a cassette toilet, you're putting toilet paper in there, and to control odor, you're also using chemicals. Then you're taking all that and dumping it into somebody's toilet, into their septic system. They're not going to be too psyched, I don't think. It works, but it's not a great solution for the owners of that system. So when it became apparent that the right solution for us was a composting toilet, I wasn't exactly excited, but I didn't really understand composting toilets and how they were used day to day. Now that we've had ours for well over a year, I can't see any other way of doing it, and it's easy. It's a no-brainer. So how does a composting toilet work on a B+ like this, or even on a boat? Well, what it does is it separates your solid waste from your liquid waste. So when you use the toilet, there's a compartment, the main compartment below the seat is where your solids drop in, and then your urine, your liquid waste, they're collected in the forward part of the bowl and they go to a holding container. So in the main part where the composting magic happens, what we do is we fill that when we change it with one of two things, either peat moss or coconut coir. We choose coconut coir. It's economical and it's sustainable. So that comes in a dehydrated brick, basically, and we put it in a bucket and we hydrate it, and we mix it, and it turns into this kind of like soil composition. We just dump it in, and when you use the toilet, you open that compartment when you sit down, you do your business, and before you stand up, you close it back up, and then you turn around and you rotate an agitator, and that mixes the solids, the waste, with the coconut coir, and the decomposition just naturally happens in that compartment. We can go generally about 4 weeks is our average before we need to take the head out and empty it and then put new coconut coir in. So with the black tank, man, we were having to empty that thing every 3 to 5 days in North America with the composting toilet, you know, once a month. With the liquids, your urine is kept separate, and when the container fills up, you basically just remove it and take it outside, and it's urine. It's not sewage. It might be a little smelly, but it's perfectly safe, and you just find a place away from people in nature and drain it out and put it back, and you're good to go. Okay, entering our head, this is our Nature's Head composting toilet. It fits beautifully in where our original porcelain flush toilet went. To remove the flush toilet, basically the back of the porcelain was open. It had 2 self-tapping screws into the floor. I was able to reach behind and unscrew those and peel the silicone seal that they put on that and just basically pull it forward. And then the water supply line that it had, which I think is one of these blue ones here, I was able to permanently cap shut because I won't need it for the composting toilet. And then the waste line is under this removable board here, and I kept that open, and I'll show you later how I tapped into that and why. To install the Nature's Head physically was quite easy. I just cleaned the floor up. I took a template and I drilled 2 holes, and these are L brackets on either side, and I basically permanently fastened the L bracket, slide the toilet in, and then all you do is insert these screws on both sides, and that holds it securely in place and attaches it to the floor. Now the other part of the installation was a little more involved, and it was really, really worth it. So the way the head works is, I talked earlier, this is the composting area where the coconut coir and your solids are kept. And this is the agitator that when you've used the head, you'll rotate this a couple times, and that mixes the contents together and allows the composting. The stock toilet came with kind of a carousel right here, and it was held in place with these 3 bolts. So I removed that and put the bolts back in, and what I was left with was just a drain that would have normally gone into that easy to remove and empty, you know, basically tank for urine. But boy, you'd be amazed how much urine an adult will generate in a day, especially if you're drinking a lot of water. So it would have had us emptying this constantly, and I didn't want to look at our urine all the time. It was a clear bottle, so I had a black tank. Why not use it? So, because if I hadn't, the only thing that would have gone into our black tank would be the contents of this small sink, and that just didn't seem to be in scale with the use. So, what I did is I took this top part off, and inside is a collection tray that's basically held in with a lot of silicone. So I removed that plate, and that gave me access to the inside where this tube stuck down. I go to Home Depot and I get this elbow, which is unthreaded up here and threaded here. I got a brass threaded fitting with pipe fittings on this side and hose threads on this side for like a garden hose. And I used plumber's tape and I inserted that. And then trying to get this to permanently attach here, there were no threads. So what I used was this putty that you can get at the hardware store. It's a 2-part putty, comes in a stick, it's usually gray, you mix it together and it sets within an hour. So what I was able to do was line the inside of this with the putty and push it up in there, and because I had access from the inside and the outside, I was able to take my fingers and go down and form it and basically create the fitting, and within an hour it's set, and now it's a permanent attachment. So what happens, instead of the urine collecting here, is it goes through this hose with the typical disconnect right here. That goes to the back, and what I did is I had a 2-inch waste hose that ran forward underneath here, and I installed a P-trap so that no liquids or vapor would come back, so that controls the smell from the black tank. and then I plumbed PVC pieces around, and then did a typically, basically the same thing. I put in a brass fitting here with pipe threads on this side, and then a male hose fitting that I could clamp on. So what happens is, when this collects the urine, it basically just goes straight down through here, through the P-trap, and into the black tank. And I don't have to deal with it. So for an entire month, which is the average that this main compartment lasts for us, we don't have to touch anything in here. We just agitate this every time we use it, and if it's just liquid waste, it goes into a 26-gallon black tank, which takes a while to fill up. So just to help you conceptualize how this works, so when you sit down, you open this compartment here for your solids by just rotating that for 90 degrees, and then your liquid wastes are caught right here, and that's what runs down through here. So when it's time to empty this out, the only thing I have to do is undo this and undo this, and then the last part to share with you would be the exhaust. So on either side we have the same kind of fitting, they look the same. So that's an air inlet, and this is outlet. This is a 12-volt DC. It's like a mini computer fan inside here, and it's hardwired into the house batteries, and it's basically just constantly bringing in new air through the chamber where the composting is happening, and then it's exiting here, and this goes right down through the bottom of the coach and out to a clam vent. So there's just constant flow of air through this. There's never a smell, and even if the fan's turned off, composting toilets aren't generally smelly. So as I mentioned before, to remove the toilet, we just need to unscrew these from either side. And simply unplug the fan and the exhaust. We unscrew the P-trap, and basically that's it. The toilet just lifts out, and we can walk this whole assembly outside and change it out. Alright, this is a quick shot just to show you where the air vent is mounted on the exterior. It's just in front of the tires on the rear driver's side, and this, I've just drilled the hole right above this clamshell, and it's open on this side with a grate to keep bugs from anything from flying in there. I did find it was important for draft, so I didn't get a backdraft to point it out in this direction. If this was unobstructed, I would have pointed it that way so that the air flowing past it when we're going down the road would draw on it. But there's so much structure back here that I found after trial and error and after rotating this a few directions, this was definitely pointing to the outside of the van was best. Okay, so now we're outside with the toilet. Say that I changed this 4 weeks ago. It's the lever, the wheel for turning it's getting a little bit hard to move, so I know the contents are filling and it's time to change it out. To do that, all I have to do is unbuckle this hasp on this side, and the entire top here is hinged. And I basically just flip it back, slide it to the side, and it comes off, and what you're left with is the composting area down here where the medium is. So to empty that, I use these recyclable trash bags, and I put that all the way around the top lip, and I just take it with two hands, turn it upside down, shake it, and all the contents come out. If I wanted to, I could basically just go into any ornamental planting area and mix it in with the soil. It's completely safe. There's no smell whatsoever. It's really surprising. But we typically end up putting this out with the normal trash. So the coconut coir, I mentioned before, it comes in bricks, it's compressed, it's dehydrated, and they come in different sizes. You buy them by the case and you pull them out and you'd think they'd be the same size, but they're not. So this is kind of a narrow, small one. In this case, I might mix two. So I pull it out of the plastic, put it into the bucket, and I just start adding water slowly, and it starts to expand, and it just turns into this mulchy like soil, and I just mix it up with my hands. So I wanted to demonstrate just how easy it is to change this out like we do once a month. I'm just kind of getting at the end of the process here, but I've taken the top off and I emptied the contents into our recycling bags here. This is the bucket I've put the coconut coir in. I've been slowly adding waters, and it just soaks it up, and you can just break it up. And as I break it up, I just add it in here, and I'm gonna do it until I get to the top of the agitator. And this is how the agitator works. After you've used the head, you just rotate it 3 times. It's after I've dumped it out, I use my vinegar water spray to wipe all the surfaces down. I use the hose to clean all this out, and once I've finished hydrating this and I put it in there, I'm going to snap the top back on there, and I'm simply just going to reinstall it into the rig, and I'll be done. So I've shown you how we deal with our solid waste about every month. What are we going to do with the black tank that's been filling up with liquid waste? Well, basically we just come out to our dump panel here, our control panel. We have a macerator pump for our tanks, and that's located down here, and uses this much smaller hose, which is retractable, and we can find a place out in nature, in a field, you know, away from people and structures and streams, and we can basically just throw this out into the weeds. We can open the black tank, which is just full of urine. While it might be, again, smelly, it's not harmful, it's not sewage. So we can turn the pump on and we can pump that out. And when we're done with that one, we can close it. We can open the other tank, our gray tank. And that's the water from our kitchen sink, the water from our shower. We use organic soaps generally, and we don't have anything bad in those tanks, so we let the gray water go out at the same time, and we're basically just watering the area that we're in. Turn the pump off. If this were to fail, this macerator pump, inside this little compartment we keep a typical hose, which is gravity fed, and we can remove the macerator pump if it's not working, hook the 4-inch line, and basically just gravity dump if we needed to. So what are my takeaways on this installation and use of a composting toilet? I'm really satisfied. You know, we like to do a lot of boondocking. We carry extra water, we have solar, we have lithium, so that we can be out unplugged and not need facilities. This composting head goes a long way in helping us do that. Like I've mentioned before, we only have to change it once a month. In terms of the composting component, we're using coconut coir, which is an endless supply of that in the world, so it's ecologically sound in terms of the medium I'm putting in there and the output from the once a month change. I'm also not using any of our fresh water, so carrying 32 gallons, I'm no longer hitting that flush button and flushing our precious water down the drain, and that's allowing us to stay out and boondock longer. And when I have a chance to empty our gray water, which is pretty harmless stuff, I'm able to also empty the liquid waste and not cause any problems. It's all environmentally sound. So we feel really good about our choice in terms of the environment, and really love it in terms of the freedom that it offers us.